Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:30. I will call the Tuesday, March 16th meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councillor Ledeen. Here. Councillor Van Sickle.
Here.
Councillor Bender.
Here.
Councillor Sweeney.
Here.
Councillor Fennessy.
Here.
Councillor Elm.
Here.
Councillor Ludwig.
Here.
Councillor Sutherland.
Here.
Councillor Kern.
Here.
Councillor Dobbeck is excused. We do have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
First item is the minutes from the March 2nd regular council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion is by Councillor Ludwig, the second by Councillor Bender. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 4.1 is a public hearing regarding housing and community development needs.
If there's no objection, I will open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Finally, would anybody like to speak to the housing and community development needs? Hearing none, if there is no objection, I will close the public hearing. We have no resolution.
No action is required on that. Item 4.2 is a public hearing regarding fair housing choice.
If there's no objection, I will open the public hearing. It is now open. Would anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Finally, would anybody like to speak to the fair housing choice? Hearing none, if there is no objection, I will close the public hearing. We have no resolution on this either.
Okay. Item 4.3 is a presentation and update on the City of Superior's master broadband plan.
Our presenters, I believe I just saw log on to the digital meeting, Devin Cox and Jeff Christensen. Welcome, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Good evening, thank you. Do I have the ability to share my screen with
Yes.
the group?
Yes, you do.
Okay. In a second, let me see if I can only find out how to do that. Sorry about this.
Present
there
now.
we go. Okay, there you go, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the time. We've got a very short slide deck to go through with and present, and then we'll open it up for questions. And feel free to write down any questions you have as we go through these slides, and then we'll make sure we spend the time to answer your questions. Okay. We wanted to cover a couple of things. So the recommendation of the master broadband plan is that the City of Superior deploy a fiber optic infrastructure network, okay, for the purposes of opening up that network in an open access model, and then allow ISPs, internet service providers, and other service providers to come utilize that digital road system and offer services to the residents and businesses of Superior. Okay? The reason why we're recommending fiber is just simply because of the capacity comparisons of fiber to other mediums that are known today. So we want to go through that real quick. DSL, if it's upgraded, can do a capacity, it has a capacity and speeds of up to about 100 megabits on its download maximum. Okay, that's your old twisted pair, telephone lines, right? Starlink, which is a relatively new technology, low orbit satellites, the testing for Starlink has generated speeds between 50 and 150 megabits per second. So that's right in the same ballpark as DSL at its maximum. Cable, the coax platform, can deliver a 1 gigabit connection speeds, again, if it's upgraded to the latest technology in cable. And then 5G, which of course you don't have a Superior yet, and the standards aren't quite fleshed out, quite established, but most of the experts are talking about a 2 gigabit throughput speed. And then you have fiber in comparison. And fiber today commercially can do 25 terabits of data transfer a second, which is basically 25 million megabits. And in the lab, in tests running over about a 5-mile distance, they've been able to push 156 terabytes of data per second. So most experts not only conclude that there's nothing that even comes close to fiber's capacity today, but we haven't even seen the horizon of where we will end up in the future. Okay, so that's why, because not only is fiber essentially the only medium that will be able to deliver the applications that are just around the corner, but it's also, in most people's opinions, the only future-proof medium of what the future will bring. Okay. As far as the market analysis in Superior, there are two primary carriers. There's a WISP, a wireless ISP, but most of the subscribers in Superior subscribe to Spectrum or CenturyLink. Okay, and you can see there we've documented the current plans as advertised on each of their websites, and then we've also next to that put the actual amounts that people, from an averaging perspective, that people in Superior are paying, and that's based on the analysis that we did of invoices that were submitted to us by residents and by businesses. So you can see here, and this is not uncommon, we see this very common. The most popular plan by far is 100 by 10 megabits. And they advertise a $55, promotional rate and a $75 standard rate. Most people in Superior are paying an average, and on average, everyone's paying $86 for that. And then, of course, you can see CenturyLink. And then the business plans are very similar, but they're just more expensive. And you can see there kind of, where the rates fall and where the rates are advertised. Okay. The one thing we wanted to point out, one of the businesses in Superior shared with us a proposal that they were given by CenturyLink to actually run fiber to their business. And CenturyLink was willing to do that, deliver a half a gigabit speed, so 100 megabits of speed, and they were willing to do that for $925 a month if they were willing to sign a 60-month contract, which that contract would have been, essentially the amount of that contract would have been $55,550. Just to give you kind of a comparison of fiber offerings today in Superior. Okay. So if we actually consolidate all the numbers down to what are people in Superior paying, residential and business plans, for a megabit of download speed, you can see that they're paying anywhere on Spectrum, anywhere from $1.22 down to 15 cents. Okay, and most people are paying right here at the 87 cents, and you can see on CenturyLink it's quite a bit more. And then businesses, you can tell the same thing. If Superior decides to move forward with a fiber network infrastructure plan as being proposed, we anticipate the cost will start out about 5 cents a megabit download speed and eventually fall to about 3 cents. Okay. So how do we finance these networks? Our general premise is that the money is already being spent. So financing the network is an exercise of community engagement. and getting the community to allocate what they're already spending in a different way. Okay, so today, based on 11,000 residential connections and based upon 2,000 business connections on average, if the residential connections were paying on average of $70, which is kind of a national average, and if the businesses were paying on average of $145, which again was the data we got back from Superior businesses, that means of those 13,000 connections, an average of $81, which means that you are spending today $12,720,000 a year. And over 20 years, and we use 20 years because that's kind of typical for financing an infrastructure project, but over 20 years, you will spend $254 million if those rates hold over that 20-year time. As a comparison, what we're proposing at the higher numbers is an average cost to residents of about $55 for 10 times the speed, and for businesses, an average of about $75 for, again, anywhere from 5 to 10 times the speed. So that represents, on an annual basis, $3,660,000 in savings for a dramatically better experience. Okay, and over 20 years, it's a $73 million savings to the residents and businesses of Superior. And that's based upon a $70 per home subscription rate. Unfortunately, we know that you're a little bit more than that. So the question is this: of the $12,720,000, if that money, for the most part, were to stay in Superior and the costs were to come down, what would that do from an economic vitalization and economic growth perspective, and just a general, increase of tax base and everything else for the town and city of Superior? Okay. The other thing I wanted to point out is this: right now there are a number of federal funds that are flowing to counties and to cities. A number of the cities we're working with and a number of counties we're working with are planning on taking those funds and at least partially devoting those to supplementing the cost of their network, thus driving down the cost for all subscribers on the network. So, for example, we don't know exactly what Superior can expect to get from the COVID funding package, but we know that Douglas County is getting $8.3 million in COVID relief funding, which again is part of the the structure behind that is definitely can be earmarked for broadband expansion and broadband upgrades. And then in addition to that, last week a bill was introduced in Congress to the tune of $1 billion specifically for broadband related projects. And the interesting thing is one of the options that is identified in the bill as being, receiving favorable treatment as far as the grant applications is if the network is an open access network. So that is also something we should look very seriously at to see if Superior can get allocated some of those funds to help offset, supplement the cost of the infrastructure bill. Okay. Now, going back to this exercise, there are some industry experts, we don't know if this will be the case, but they believe that the current state and the way that we're going with the increases we've seen over the last few years from the telco and cable incumbents, that we're headed towards a $100 per month internet bill for residential service. We don't know if that's true or not. There are articles written about it. I'll let you read those. But my point is this: today, you guys are already halfway there at 86.53. And it's not likely that you'll go down from there. You may stay stable there. So what we're proposing is a tremendous trade-off for the residents and business owners of Superior, and that is help us finance the network, and we'll lower your cost from 86 to about 50 to $55, and we'll take your speeds from 100 to 200 megabits up to 1,000 megabits. Okay. Then finally, we wanted to share with you the results of the survey that has been going on for the last year. So right now, well, at the time that the broadband plan was published last month, there were 538 respondents to the survey. Of those, you can see how the numbers break out. 96% of the respondents said that they would be in favor of the city doing this type of a network. Either yes or possibly I need more information. And 3.9 said, no, I don't think the city should be involved in this. Okay? As far as other questions related to broadband, when asked if internet speeds were important, 98% said that they were important or very important, so the two higher categories. Less than 1% said it's not important. The average connection speeds are 67 megabits download speed and 10 megabits upload speed. So from an averaging perspective, we're talking more than 10x on the download speed, and we're talking, dramatically on the upload speed, because we're recommending a symmetrical gigabit, so 1,000 up, 1,000 down. Okay. As far as choice in ISP and whether that's important and internet plans, again, 5% felt that was not important, but 94% thought it was important or very important. And then finally, how do you rate your current ISP plan? Over 50% of the residents and businesses in Superior rated their current internet experience as either poor or fair. Finally, the recommendations and next steps that we have presented to the CIT committee, and now we present to the city council is: one, we start a community engagement, education, and listening tour, because again, we need to find out to what level people are interested in this project and being involved and willing to be part of financing that, because financing is an exercise of take rate, which is an exercise of community involvement. Okay. The second is, we think we know there are grant opportunities coming online. We think there will be more, so we think those should be researched. And that if there's any opportunity for Superior to grab some of those funds, we should do so, because it'll just help offset all of the cost of the network. And then finally, eventually issuing an RFP process for design build, so we can actually start hardening the numbers in the broadband plan, because the numbers in the broadband plan are pro forma estimations. They are not hardened numbers, right? So going out to an RFP process will allow us to get actual bids back from contractors, from design and engineering firms, to start hardening and refining those numbers. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions we can answer for you?
Okay, we will go into questions and discussion. Councilor Elm.
Well, I don't have any questions at this time, but I wanted to thank Devin and Jeff for this presentation and their efforts on putting together the city's broadband master plan. I also wanted to thank city staff for their hard work to get where we are today. So far, this is only a draft plan, and I do realize there's still much work to be done with this. Moving forward, we will include exploring grant and additional funding opportunities and their impacts to lower the overall cost. We will also have future listening tours and education for the public and businesses so they can define and share what this means to them. Ultra-fast fiber broadband has the potential to transform our city, with providing the opportunity to connect citizens, businesses, and the greater community to provide more choice and faster access to services. Education services could be extended. Healthcare can be digitized further, thus improving quality of life for patients. Affordable and additional options will also help solve the digital divide. Government services can be moved online, increasing efficiency while making it easier for citizens to interact with municipal government. And in an increasing and competitive market, availability of ultra-fast fiber broadband can play a huge part where residents choose to live and where businesses decide to set up and operate. While other fiber models do exist, it's important to understand the differences and the benefits that the automated open access model provide compared to others. Overall, this model can help increase a choice and lower costs. While we continue to plan and gain public input, I truly do look forward to one day having one of the most advanced networks in the state of Wisconsin and being a shining example to other communities. So I just want to thank everyone again.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, could I ask you to stop sharing your screen? I need to see the council just a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Further questions or discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
Mr. Cox, can you, going back to the survey information, it seems like you chose that wisely, which statistics to pull out. But am I understanding it right that on the survey, the one question was, do you support broadband? And was the option either no, or the second option, either yes, I support it, or need more information?
So I'll be happy to read you the exact question from the survey, if that's helpful. So it says, and let me get to that. Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry. Make sure I pull up the survey. Okay. So the question you're referring to is a question that reads, the city of Superior is considering building a fiber optic broadband network throughout the city that would be open to any and all private sector service providers for internet access, voice television, smart home, and other services. Would you support the city owning and operating fiber network infrastructure if it facilitated more internet choice in a competitive environment, faster internet speeds, and lower prices? And then the choices were no, I would not support that. Probably, I need more information, and then yes.
In your presentation, you conveniently lumped in probably need more information and yes, I strongly support this together.
Correct.
What was the breakdown there between
Well,
yes?
I actually list them all. So 72.1% said yes, 22.68% said possibly I need more information, and 3.9% said no.
Okay. And then the other question I had about the data is in your presentation you said that 50% of the people are not satisfied with their broadband. Would it be safe to assume that that would leave 50% that are satisfied with their current broadband option? Well,
again, in the presentation, and you have this in your packets, so you're welcome to look at this at any time. So 16.1% said poor, 34.57% said fair, 31.78% said good, 13.1% says very good, and 4.46% said excellent. So that's how that breaks down.
Okay, so only 16% rated their current internet as poor.
Correct. If you add poor and fair together, that's where you get the 50%.
Would you also get 50% that are happy with their current internet? I guess just
sure.
so.
If you group good, very good, and excellent together, yep.
Right. So just so I'm following here, the two big problems that we're solving with this would be price and speed. Is that fairly accurate?
And reliability. I mean, I think most of the people that we've talked to so far in Superior, the cable plant is fairly stable. I think there are some issues with the DSL plant, and which makes sense because it's a much older, it's been in the ground longer. So those are the three things that you're going to solve for. You're going to solve for reliability, you're going to solve for speed, and you're going to solve for cost.
Okay.
I would add, this is Jeff Christensen, I'd add that fiber optics are inevitable. So I will say over the next 10 years, the majority, and I'm going to say upwards of 80% of the country will get fiber optics. Just because the technology is superior. The question is who will own the fiber optics? And so that's part of what's being solved here as well, is will the city choose to leave it as a private incumbent that controls the infrastructure and the service, or will the infrastructure be treated more like essential utility infrastructure and go over into the public hands? So it's, I think it is inevitable that it's just like electricity. The whole country is going to get fiber optics. It's partially a question of who will own and control the fiber optics.
Okay. So if we go off,
and how much you'll pay for it.
yeah. So if we go off of the speed, right now I look at myself. I'm working from home full time. Been for the last year. I've got 3 girls who are schooling virtually, 2 days a week. In the evenings, we've got multiple screens going, multiple people running Netflix, and I've never been in a position where I say, boy, I could really use some more bandwidth. So is this creating a solution for an existing problem that we have, or is this creating a solution on the backbone of a $31 million bond that we're anticipating might arise in the near future?
Jeff, I'll let you throw in on this. I'll just say that there have been many communities throughout the country. I can't speak specifically for Superior, but I think there have been some areas of Superior that have struggled dramatically with connectivity issues because of COVID. Because the parents go home, start doing video conference calls, and then the kids start doing video conference calls. And there are numerous articles out on the web, you're welcome to look them up, to talk about how they have really struggled because the current networks were never designed to have the kind of upload traffic that we've experienced this last year with COVID.
Right. There's no doubt that other cities are having that, but let's focus in on Superior because that's who we're tasked with.
Right. So the reason why Jeff said that we believe fiber will be deployed throughout the entire country in the next 10 to 15 years is because the applications that are coming around the corner are such that you will experience the challenges with the current infrastructure. And that's not me talking about, that's the CEO of AT&T saying that. So again, Jeff, if you want to come in and.
Well, yeah, I think your questions are good and they're perfectly valid questions. I think an important part of the debate or the discussion or the dialogue is this essential infrastructure? And up until now, from a policy point of view, as a country, we've treated internet infrastructure as a nice to have. We've treated it like a luxury item. And I think COVID has started to change hearts and minds on whether we should continue from a policy point of view to treat it as a nice to have, because the reality is we live in a digital economy. So, we really do welcome these kinds of questions and this kind of debate. And we've made ourselves available to the city council for one-on-one sessions, and we'll continue to make ourselves available. And then we'll, as part of the community engagement listening tour, we'll have public forums for these kinds of questions. I think infrastructure for any community, it's always good to be a step ahead of what's going to be needed from an infrastructure point of view. You don't want to, I don't think, personal opinion, I don't think you want to lag what is going to be needed from an infrastructure point of view. And there are, what you pick a field, medicine, there's a dominant trend toward hospital at home, which doesn't mean that I'm doing a Zoom call with my doctor. It means I'm going to leave the hospital and go home with an IV pump that needs to be monitored by the hospital reliably. So that's one, we could spend hours talking about healthcare trends. The electrical grid is going to be connected to fiber. It's going to happen. We're moving towards transactive energy, and where there's a strong push towards renewables and clean energy. And to successfully manage that and monitor it, the grid is going to be connected to fiber. So, I think it's a fair question to say, are we sort of speculative on the need for fiber? I think that's a valid question. I think it should be part of the dialogue. But we're firmly convinced that A, fiber is going to be necessary, and B, that every city is going to get it.
Okay, I just have one last question. With this, let's say let's go down the road that this is an enormous success. You guys, we get the 60% utilization. Everyone who wants fiber signs up for it. What role does entry point play in after, like, moving forward?
Yeah, so we have two sides to our business. One is the consulting arm, and then the other is a technology arm. And part of the next steps, so we were not in the meeting when the committee chose to recommend open access. And in the report, you'll see that we go through 10 different models. The open access thing is kind of a simple question, and I think it's the question the CIT committee asked is, do we want one internet service provider added in the community, or do you want multiple? And that's kind of a, we weren't there, but we've never had a city say, oh, we'll take one when many is possible. So the open access model was recommended. We do have a technology that offers open access, and the only one in the country that's automated, which means that people can switch their ISP on demand. But we have not put into the plan an assumption that entry point would be that provider. We've put in an assumption that the city would do an RFP for the technology platform. And so that's part of the go forward process that's written into the plan, is that at some point, if the city gets to that point, that there would be a public process to make that decision.
Okay, I think that possibly where some of my hesitation stems from is we've never hired a consultant before who ends up being awarded the job at the end. It would be super unusual for us to hire a consultant and come with, circle back with them and say, yeah, you guys did it. So I think that's where a lot of my hesitation comes from is I look at this as we basically paid entry point $18,000 to develop a robust sales pitch, for this program. And that's not a jab at you guys, because you guys are only doing what this council asked you to do. But I'm apprehensive to get excited about moving forward about bonding $31.5 million on the recommendation of someone who's going to come out as a partner in this. So I just those are fair questions. We charge $2 per subscriber per month.
Just a minute, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Fennessy has the floor.
No, that's it. I just think we're, as a city, there's so many unknown questions right now. I think we're in way over our head, and I think we need to step back, pump the brakes before we start bleeding the taxpayer dollars on this. Wait till it's a problem that we need to solve instead of trying to create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Is there further discussion or questions? Councilor Sutherland.
Thank you, Mayor. May I direct my questions towards Mr. Christensen and Cox? I've been working with you guys for a while here as the co-chair of the IT committee, and Councilor Elm, I want to thank you for everything you've done and all the energy you put into it. And Tyler, I know this is your passion. something, I mean, I've mentioned this before. I do understand that we do need faster internet speeds. But now we're boiling down to the point where, you know, we have a huge community where I don't know if 500 respondents is enough to gauge that big of a project. I hope we don't use those numbers as, you know, I hope moving forward, if we go down this road, we ask for the public's input on this. And I've asked that before as an advisory referendum of some sort to get the public's input. But to start pushing, I mean, I love the idea. I'm going on record saying that. I think it's a great idea. We do need faster internet. I understand it's going to be the future. But I want to make sure that the taxpayers, the tax base of this community understands that if this doesn't work, we're going to be like in the Kestrel situation or something else where we're going to be paying it off for years, which I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that never happens. But we need to understand, I think my district, I would have a hard time supporting this without my district asking it on a ballot as an advisory referendum. I mean, that's just me. I don't know where any other councilors sit on that, but I don't want to be ran out of town on a $31 million project that didn't work. And I hope it works if it goes that way. If we do go that way, I know it's the early stages, but I hope we do it right and we ask our constituents if this is what we want to do. That's all I ask moving forward. Thank you.
Further questions or discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting this. Tyler, for you doing the work on it. I've been trying to get my hands around this to ask the questions, and it's almost like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. I'm still trying to record general, not specific questions, general questions relating to this. One broad aspect of it is how would we go about any $31 million project? What general questions would we ask? What general criteria has to be met? And then specifically, we would go in, if this were the one, we would then follow up with more specific questions for the broadband, and then far more specific, getting down to that. I'm up to general broad questions, around 28 questions right now, 28 bytes, okay? I think I've got another 28 to go, okay? And so I'm not there yet, and I'm concerned. 31 million, maybe that's the basement figure. I think that if this is the $31 million that we decide to spend, we've got to do an awful lot of homework. We've got to spend an awful lot of time, because if we make the mistake, $31 million, I haven't looked to see what our bonding, where we are, and I'm sure we're okay with that, but that will seriously affect what we do in the future with anything else. This isn't just, this is what we do today is going to broadly affect the future. And so we've got some big time decisions to make and to spend time on it. And so that's where I'm coming from. So thank you for offering that. I did not respond to your offer to meet with you, gentlemen, whether it be one-on-one or two-on-one, but I respectfully would like to do that at some time when I get all my questions down. Thank you.
Further discussion or questions?
Mayor Mack.
I'm sorry, Councilor Kern.
I want to thank you guys for the presentation today. I've been following this as much as I can, with not fully knowing all about fiber and understanding the broadband market. As a business owner and the resident, obviously, in Superior, nobody likes to pay more than they have to. So I like the concept and the idea, but a $31 million price tag and having my constituents have to pay for it is something that, like other councilors have said, something that we need to really address and talk about before we move forward. I understand that we're going to have some listening sessions. I want to kind of go back to your survey, or not so much a survey, but your presentation tonight. I've seen a lot of your numbers were basically every single household and business in Superior at 11,000 and 13,000. Do we know, or do you either one of you gentlemen know what the actual subscription rate is in the city of Superior? Is it a full 100%? I don't believe so.
Well, the 11,000 doesn't represent 100%. So we've carved off about, I think total households is 11,800 if I remember the numbers right. So we didn't go 100%, but no, we don't know what the actual, how many homes in Superior actually subscribe to internet service. We anticipate, like in most cities of your size, it's a very high percentage, but we don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah, it's probably a 90 to 95% number. On the pro forma that's on the financials that are in the report, I think we used a 60% take rate. And that assumption is based on a 10x increase in speed and a 25 to 35% improvement on costs. So, as you acknowledge, we're still early in the process. This report is really the first step of due diligence. I think a key thing that will really affect whether this goes anywhere or not is the community engagement effort. And ultimately, the community engagement effort will be an attempt to talk to everybody and to get people to weigh in on would they subscribe and would they participate in this effort. So, the 500 that responded to the survey, that is a pointer. It's not I don't think any decisions are going to be based on that. So I think, the community engagement, we believe the community engagement is the most important part of the process. And it's, success is, as Devin said, is driven by take rate, which is the number of people that ultimately sign up. And take rate's really a function of value. And so if we can build the value into what people get, then it's reasonable to assume that the take rate will be there. But we're gonna go figure that out.
That's my biggest hiccup is that take rate, 60% take rate in a market that might be only 60% of current residents utilizing some sort of internet service. And to expect that we would potentially take all 60% from an open market industry, that has me thinking, I'm not sure about that number.
Yeah, so so I know the 31 million has been talked about in the press. I think it is important to keep grounding this in what's being spent today. How much is leaving Superior today? So it's not thought of as a new number. But the ultimate number, whatever it is, if the city goes forward, will directly correlate with however many people sign up. So one question is, what is the infrastructure cost? Another question is the network sustainable from, on an ongoing basis without subsidy from the city? And then lastly, a question that the CIT committee answered is, would people be forced to participate? And the CIT committee was strongly no. So it's not going to be a new tax. It's, the city really, the role they play is as an enabler to improve a media that really is central to the economy now. So I think your questions are good. I think you should keep asking those questions, and the proof's in the pudding.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mayor Payne, this is Councilor Van Sickle.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, I was recently looking through your emails and found an email as far back as 2018. So you've been involved with this council just about as long as I have. And I'm a little shocked to hear this discussion going the way it is. But I certainly support my colleagues. I think oversight is one of our most important charges. But I think equally important is we have to lead with innovation. And I don't think that fiber or broadband is really dreaming beyond the stars. It feels very basic, almost as basic as a water line or picking up the garbage. And I believe this council passed unanimously a resolution supporting infrastructure, the internet be viewed that way as a regular utility. And I'm a little concerned that I hear some fear mongering around the price tag. So my question though is, a lot of times Superior is viewed in the context of the Twin Ports. Has there been any interest from Duluth? Is that a possibility? Does that drive costs down? How does that work if that were, I guess if that was of interest or a possibility? Thank you.
So I can tell you that last week, the Economic Development Council in Duluth reached out to me and asked me to set up a call. And last week, we had our first call with the Economic Development Advisory Committee in Duluth that's working very closely with the mayor's office and the city council in Duluth. They've been kind of given this task of researching broadband options and technologies for municipal broadband in Duluth. I can tell you that they like what we covered from a general concept perspective. I think they're very interested in doing a similar process that Superior is involved with right now. And if they decided to move forward, then yes, there would be great synergies between Duluth and Superior if both cities decided to move forward with a municipal broadband infrastructure, deployment. Now, how that would look and the numbers around that, it's too early to tell at this point.
Okay, thank you. And just one follow-up, how important would you consider quality internet to a thriving business community?
Jeff, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, it is a digital economy. So, and we're just at the beginning. I mean, I know people think we've had the internet for a long time. We are at the beginning. The emerging economy is an economy that's going to be rich with artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies and the Internet of Things. And the economy 25 years from now will be vastly different than the economy today. And all of that change will be digital. So, it's no longer a debate on whether the fiber optics are the future media. It's true that a lot of the country still has cable, but all of the coaxial cable will get replaced. It will, just because fiber is so superior. So, we have a bias because of who we are and where we sit, but I think what we're saying is not out on the edge. I think it's well understood.
Is that all, Councilor Vincic?
Yes, thank you.
Any further questions? Councilor Ludwig.
Yes, I just have a question. I know I've read through all the material, and I know there are cities that have already implemented this open access. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess for our sakes and our residents' sakes who like to do research, could we have a list of those cities who already have the open access? So,
Sure.
So if anyone wanted to communicate with them about how their open access is going?
Yeah, so there is a whole section in the report on that. We can add that question to the website and put that information in there. There are at least 3 kinds of open access. One's a dark fiber open access, one is what we call manual open access, and one is automated open access. And there are live examples of each kind, and we can provide that information both on the website and to the council.
Okay, thank you. Because of course, information is education, and
Sure.
we want to educate our constituents on this as much as we can. Thank you.
Yep.
Further discussion? Councilor Sutherland.
Just one last thing. So, we are throwing around a big number, 31, 32 million, but I think when it comes to that, you would do this out in sections, if my mind serves correctly, right? Like try an area, then, or would you just do, would the whole plan be to do the whole city at once?
As I'm writing down a lot of people's
Yeah.
questions, Counselor, I'm gonna go into a little bit of what our process would likely look like, but that's one option. Yes.
Yeah, you're right. So I was just, I understand the big picture is 30-something million, but if we want the option of going neighborhood by neighborhood, it's not as much as a burden than bonding for the whole thing. If that makes sense. I mean, I don't know if we're going to go out and say, here's $31 million, put fiber optic down every street. I'd hope we'd start with the pilot area like we talked about and see if it's a success and move district by district or area by area from there. But again, I love the idea. I do. Now we're here. Now the questions are going to be asked. There's no such thing as bad questions in this one. So I encourage anyone, if you have questions, ask them, because this is something we're going to have to. You're going to be. All of us will be asked wherever we go from someone. What's going on with broadband? How is this going to better? We have to ask these questions. So I don't think there's a dumb question here on this on this item particular. But I just hope moving forward, whatever we decide, and I know the best interest is in everyone's minds. What is this the right thing we need to spend money on? And if it is, let's go that route. We got to have a lot of more conversations on this. So, but again, thanks, Mr. Christensen and Cox, for everything you've done, and Councilor Elm especially. Thanks for that. It's a new idea that I've never. We're going to have all these questions because we've never seen something like this before in Superior or Duluth or within a couple hundred miles of us. So we're going to have a lot of questions, and I don't think those questions will stop for a while.
And we encourage you to ask them. In fact, let us know if you want to put together a private educational session. We'll be happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions or discussion?
Well, just a thank you to both of the presenters. They did a great job.
Thank you, Councilor Bender.
Thank you.
Councilors, I want to go a little bit into our process here, how this will play out. Obviously, this is a substantial question. This is the creation of a new public utility. I believe the council understood that. We passed a resolution to that effect, that we do recognize broadband as a public utility in Superior, but that this really is a very substantial undertaking, one we haven't taken on in over a century. But we have a number of public utilities within the city that are controlled by the city. We have paved streets and sidewalks, sewage system, stormwater system. All of those took a council deciding to do that, and to my knowledge, none of those were unanimous at the time. There were considerable questions. In fact, I remember when Chris Carlson was taking me through our largest stormwater tunnel in the city, and eventually sent me articles on the creation of the wastewater system. Even that was not unanimous, and the risk was literally a cholera outbreak in the city of Superior, and several councilors shrugged that off. But the lesson that we learned from the creation of public utilities takes a long time, and it requires quite a bit of information. And I'm a little bit biased. I'm ahead of most of you in this information. My first meeting was not even really with Councilor Elm, but with his brother. Councilor Elm was there, and it was quite a bit easier learning this stuff from Entry Point than from Travis Elm, who really hits you with a fire hose of information if you give him an hour. But the next steps, of course, it's to follow Mr. Sweeney's recommendation and take down this elephant one bite at a time. I would encourage all councilors to do what Mr. Sweeney implied he was doing, which is to write down your questions, submit them either to my office, to Councilor Elm as the chair of the CIT committee, or if you can, directly to Mr. Cox and Mr. Christensen. Take a look at the plan as well that is on your agenda tonight. The CIT committee came up with a number of questions as well, some pretty detailed questions. So even some pretty informed people, after hearing this presentation once, came up with a lot of questions. And so you may find some of your answers already in there. There's going to be a lot of misunderstandings along the way, and we'll do what we can to clear those up. Obviously, at no point will I support putting a $31 million bond in front of the council in the hopes that it would be paid back. we're going to finance this in much more responsible ways. But the next step, while you're generating your questions, we have to get those from the public as well. The contract for Entry Point requires them to conduct listening sessions with the public. I've encouraged them to use that as a teaching opportunity to tell the public what this really is, because it's complex and it's confusing. Make sure they understand what they're potentially buying into, and then to pull their questions from them. Hopefully that should give us a good sense of where the public really stands on this. If and when we are convinced of some pretty broad public support, we'll start moving forward on financing plans. There's a number of ways to pursue that. I am very encouraged by a lot of federal legislation that implies we could get much, if not most, of this funded directly by the federal government, so possibly very quickly. So I'm really not worried about the cost. As they pointed out, this pays for itself. Taxpayers don't spend any money on this. It is only user-funded and has the potential to be very successful. I, of course, see it as an economic development tool as well. So it's a couple years in the making. We will go slow. We will answer questions as they come up. I think that's all I have, unless there are further questions for the presenters or me. Councilor Fennessy.
I do just have a question, more for you than anything. The next step you said would be like the listening sessions. Is that?
Yes.
At what point do we want to do some kind of like a bond analysis to figure out if we can bond for this money, how are we going to bond for it, what capacity that does for any of our future bonding, if worst case scenario this doesn't work out and we're stuck with the bonds? At what point do we do that before we start talking to the public, getting them all excited, only to turn back and realize that this is a massive risk that could literally bankrupt the city if we're going to have to bond for the entire thing and the project fails like it did in Madison? At what point do we do a bond analysis just to kind of figure out, is this even something that we're even capable of moving that next step, even if all of the listening sessions are super positive?
Well, we're going to do a bond analysis for the budget. We present our debt position for the budget. I think we do it every year, but we'll certainly be doing it this year. But we're not going to be considering a $31 million bond on spec. That's the proposal that Entry Point put out uses the city's bonding capacity for individual users to take out the loan. So the city's not on the hook for the loan. The user is the one paying it, and it's tied to the property, much the same way a PACE loan or a housing grant, a housing rehab grant from Northwest works. So the actual person receiving the service is the one paying for it. It just the only reason the city's involved in that is because the city can get a larger and better offer. So we're always secured. There's always security for it. But even that, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to finance it. Obviously, I think we're going to get quite a bit of grant funding. I think that's a pretty critical component of it. And it's a matter of scale. You know, we would, as Councilor Sutherland pointed out, we may look at it in a smaller scale, unless of course the demand is overwhelming and people actually want to sign up and take out this debt. But $31 million is simply not the question.
So I get what you're saying, where we pass this on to the homeowner, it's attached to their property taxes for 20 years is the plan here. What happens if this fails in year 2? Are you still going to expect the property owner to pay that back over the next 18 years for a service that we installed but it failed?
Well, if we get a 60% take rate, then people will have agreed. They will own their infrastructure. The infrastructure will be built. Then it can't fail. It's actually working at that point.
It can't fail. Well, that's what they thought in Madison too.
No, Madison didn't get an appropriate take rate. They built it in advance of people. If I'm describing this correctly, they built it in advance and then went out and asked people to subscribe to it, and they didn't, or they just didn't get the take rate. Is that correct?
I think they got 15 homes.
Can we ask the consultants the information on Madison? What happened there? The difference, and I mean, it's a completely different model too.
Yeah. So Madison was a project completely different from the approach that we're talking about with Superior. The goals were completely different. The objectives were completely different. The approach was completely different. So basically, Madison was a very, very small project, less than about $500,000, for the purpose of bringing better broadband connectivity to the underserved and the low-income housing apartments inside of Madison. Okay. The biggest reason why, at least from all of the reports that I was able to find, newspapers, news reports, and everything, the primary challenge was that the people building the network could not get approval from the landlord of the apartment buildings to actually put the fiber in the apartment buildings. Now, why they started building a network, why they even put a shovel in the ground, before they understood that they needed to go to the landlords and get permission to bring fiber into their buildings. I have no idea why that was not understood and but that's essentially, the network was shut down because they didn't have connectivity into the apartments of those low-income, households that they were trying to help. Well, it's not even the same thing. But anyway, and that's also described somewhat in the Q&A, the question and answer document you have in your packets.
So I certainly appreciate that approach much better than how Madison approached. Instead of going off of a build it and they will come mentality, let's get them to come and then we'll build it. So I mean, I certainly appreciate that versus how Madison did that. But what are we going to? So we keep talking 60% take rate. Define take rate for me. Is that somebody saying, yeah, I think I would like this, or is that somebody saying, yeah, I'll sign on the dotted line, put that on my taxes?
Yes, that's my understanding. Take rate.
So it would be 60% of the homeowners signing a contract saying, yes, install this before we actually start going down this road?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Devin talked about hardening the costs through an RFP process. Once we harden the costs, so initially we're going to ask for a show of interest, which will be something as mundane as provide your email address and we'll provide you updates on the project. Once the numbers are hardened, the way we see the process is first aggregate everybody who voluntarily says, I am in. If the city does it, and these are the numbers, I'm in. And then from there, our recommendation will actually be to use local college students to go door to door and answer people's questions. That'll be after we've done webinars and we've done hopefully in-person meetings and various other outreach. But then go door to door to answer people's questions, not to pressure people, but to provide the information and to answer their questions. We're identified with what's called the Ammon model. And part of the Ammon model is this idea that you don't go on, let's build it and hope they come. It's that you go get them and make sure you've got numbers, then you build it. And that's a key piece of the strategy here is let's make sure this is a sustainable network, then build it.
If my understanding of the financing too is that 31 million presumes all of the users in the city or rather at a 60% take rate, they are fully financing the network. The users are fully financing it, correct? Yeah. So it could be significantly less than that if the federal government is financing a portion of it.
Yeah.
Or the state government, who's talking about it just as aggressively.
Yep.
That's all.
Devin mentioned a $1 billion. He left off a couple of zeros. The federal bill is $100 billion for broadband. It may get pulled into a bigger infrastructure bill, but right now the discussion is around a $100 billion national investment into broadband. So just to support what you're saying, Mayor.
That is all I have, unless any other questions popped up. Mr. Cox, Mr. Christensen, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item 5 is correspondence to... I'm sorry. Item 5 is correspondence to be filed. There's no action required. Item 6.1 is the mayor's report.
Thank you. A lot of the things that we've been working on over the past couple weeks, you are seeing on your agendas right now. Still paying attention very closely to politics. That's getting very busy. The state budget period is going to be at the executive committee very soon. And then we'll be tracking the real politics. I'm starting to hear a little bit of buzz around how those negotiations between the legislature and the governor are taking shape. Obviously not a lot I'll be able to say right here. It would be speculation anyways, but I still feel confident Superior is going to come out fairly well from the state budget, or at least hopeful. We are almost certainly going to come out very well from the federal COVID relief bill. That just passed. We're still learning everything we can about it, but it obviously looks like quite a bit of good news for local communities. I don't know how much good news or the nature of that good news yet, because I don't know what we'll be able to spend that on or exactly how much we'll be able to get. But that should be good locally. The most pressing thing, I think, for you counselors is we're putting together our schedule for the general fund budget, CIT, and the surplus from the 2020 budget surplus. I don't think Director Putz will correct me, but I'm going to at this point confidently say we will have a surplus from the 2020 general fund budget, though you'll have to pry the amount from my cold dead hands. But within a week, or I'm not going to say a week, within a couple of weeks you'll have that number. We will, like last year, present all those together, but the process is going to start right now. Within about a month, we're going to have the department head retreat that I traditionally have. I'm going to try and actually put department heads together, go over their goals for the year, outline their policy initiatives, the kind of things that elevate into the priorities that you typically vote on in the budget process. Then I'm going to call you to a similar retreat. This will be a much more expansive, at least the way I'm planning it now, somewhere around May, a much more expansive meeting than you've usually gone through with priority session. Typically that's been about an hour or two. I give you the policy proposals we came up with. You vote on what your favorites are after you've thrown out any extras you wanted to add. We're going to take a little bit deeper dive and actually have department heads give some pretty in-depth presentations about the things they're doing and the things that they hope to do to make you as educated as possible, so that when you go into your priority setting session, which will likely just be a survey like it was last year, I think that worked pretty well, but you should be very well armed as you go into that. After that, of course, by June we'll be in the department head drafts. They will draft their we'll have a sense of what we're funding, but they're just going to do their regular operating budgets. We'll do the meetings, carve those down, and then based on council priorities, get ready for the presentation in September. So I anticipate a pretty good budget year. I don't have a lot of apprehension about it, but it's always stressful, always tough, but now's the time. If you have major policy goals for the next year that you want to see in any of those three budgets, it's time to start thinking about them. And then administratively, if you're paying attention to HRC within the next month, I think, we've been reviewing all of the department head job descriptions. We already reviewed a few of them at HRC because of the RW report. So Cammie and Ms. Knesny, Mr. Raverty, and I decided let's just look at all of them, make sure they're all up to date. They've already reviewed them, make sure they're performing the functions we want to see out of each of the departments. So that's I don't expect that to be too dramatic, but might be a chance to think about the vision of each of those departments. Finally, I am very behind in my correspondence, and so something that I should have written late last week, I'm going to call to attention right now. Jason Sirk and Terry Kalan both had their work anniversaries with the City of Superior. Jason Sirk has been working here 25 years, a quarter of a century, and Terry, I'm afraid, even longer at 30 years. So congratulations to both of them on a very long career. That's all I have, unless there are questions. Move on.
Item 7.1 is the Finance Committee recommendations from February 18th. It's a report from the chair.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to report. You can see the one thing that we've talked about before, and I'd like to give, we did develop a grant applications, and I'd like to thank Councilor Van Sickle and Councilor Elm for leading the way on that. And that passed. We got a little more work to do on it, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And one other thing I think of interest, at least since I've been on the Finance Committee, we had the shortest meeting we've ever had at 13 minutes. That's all. Thank you.
Other questions for the chair? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the business of the Finance Committee.
Motion to approve. Second.
The motion is by Councilor Elm, the second by Councilor Ledeen. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 8.1.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, everyone.
Is special committee reports, communication and information technology, February 22nd, recommendations, report from the chair.
Yes, most of you folks here, the council, one of the big topics was going through the many questions we submitted at CIT, and that's all in the agenda packet for review, so I won't belabor that anymore, as you guys all asked wonderful questions tonight. But also in the meeting, we did update the mission statement for the CIT to include reviewing and recommending hardware and software aspects that either perform a new city function or is currently performed by staff. So those particular topics will run through CIT, so we'll be seeing some more information and policy there. Director Shea also updated us on the ongoing software projects, including the building inspection, payroll software, and everything's on time or ahead of schedule. So that's essentially it.
Are questions for the chair? Are there any other special committee reports?
Item 10.1, I'm submitting, recommending approval of miscellaneous licenses.
So moved.
The motion is by Councilor Fennessy, the second by Councilor Bender. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
10.2, Planning Director Cirque is recommending approval of a resolution introduced by the Community Development Division to amend and approve the 2021 Action Plan budget, authorizing staff to submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Motion to approve.
Motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Planning Director Cirque and City Attorney Perrell are recommending approval of a resolution for the sale of land to and entering into a development agreement with RDF Inc. for the construction of Maytag Laundry at 2123 through 2131 East 5th Street.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
The motion is by Councilor Sweeney, the second by Councilor Sutherland. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Planning Director Cirque is recommending approval of a new lease agreement for Captain Jay's for the revised rent as defined in the lease agreement.
Motion to approve.
The motion is by Councilor Bender, the second by Councilor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
10.5, Housing Planner and Coordinator Screens is recommending approval bid from Joshua Weber to purchase and rehabilitate 1627 Washington Avenue.
The motion is by Councilor Sutherland, the second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.6, Finance Director Putz is recommending approval of an ordinance introduced by the Finance Committee creating Section 2-243 grants.
Just a moment, Councilor. I want to clarify misprint here. There was a miscommunication. This was not introduced to the Finance Committee, nor recommended or approved by them. We discussed it in coordination with the grants approval process, or the grant application process that you just approved a few minutes ago, I mentioned to the Finance Committee it might be helpful if we had an ordinance requiring us to follow this process, much like we do other processes for awarding money, and I volunteered the administration to write that ordinance. Director Putz, Mr. Raverty, and Mr. Prell worked together to draft that and placed it directly on the agenda. So I just want to make that clear. That hasn't been approved by the Finance Committee, but we did discuss it there. Therefore, what is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
So the motion was by Councilor Bender. Was there a second?
Second.
The second was by Councilor Sutherland. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.7 is a resolution providing for the issuance, sale, and delivery of $3,090,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2021A, for the City of Superior, directing their execution and creating a debt service account.
The motion is by Councilor Ludwig, the second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? I want to point out, councilors, any time we issue bonds, we typically have to go through rating evaluation in advance of that. It's a somewhat of an involved process involving a number of staff that have to answer a lot of questions about the financial health not only of the institution of the City of Superior, but the community as a whole. And so that bond rating, most of us have talked about it before, it's not just a picture of us here in city government, it's a picture of the whole community. And those are getting to be pretty fun conversations to be a part of. We're able to highlight real improvements to our community and our economy every year. And I'm pleased to report the bond rating agency reaffirmed our AA bond rating. Is there further discussion? Councilor Sutherland.
Is that the highest bond rating we could acquire?
No, it's just short of the highest. We've asked that question a couple of times of our bond consultants. How do we get to the highest? Realistically, it's just the size of the community. It would be the sheer size of our finances. Unless we were to grow pretty significantly in size, it would be hard to reach that next level. Do you have anything to add or correct there, Director Putz?
I don't think I have a lot to add, but I think the main takeaway is that it has been communicated to us that it would be very difficult for us to increase our rating from where it's at.
I guess just ask the question so we can keep talking about it and bragging about it. It's a really good rating. And thanks for everyone involved in making that rating great.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
10.8, the Executive Director of the Superior Business Improvement District is requesting approval of the 2021 operating plan.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve.
The motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Bender. Discussion. Councilor Ludwig.
Yes, I do have some comments here, if you will. First of all, I want to start with a compliment because the SBID, I think they do a really good job at promoting our downtown farmers market. So I just wanted to start with that comment. But I do have a couple of questions and comments going through this. For example, the design committee, when I was reading this, they still talk about, working with just Wisconsin Department of Transportation and the City of Superior on Belknap reconstruction project. And so as far as these activities, I think those activities should be updated rather than saying that they're in charge of the streetscape design. Maybe it should be updated so that now maybe continued maintenance and beautification of our streetscape design now? We're pretty well finished with construction, aren't we?
Yes, there's not there's certainly no more design for Belknap. There's a couple of things to wrap up. But just as a procedural point, I'll let the attorney correct me on this, but I don't believe we can amend this report. I think you can certainly make suggestions to the bid, but the way the state statute is worded is a little bit funny. It allows you to approve or deny it, and if you deny it, the bid board can make corrections. So I'm, unless the attorney signals me otherwise, I don't think I'm going to entertain amendments,
Okay.
but suggestions
So
are
I'm just
perfectly
making
appropriate.
suggestions then,
Sure.
okay? Can I continue with my
Please.
suggestions then? Okay, thank you. So that's one suggestion. Another, and I did have another suggestion with the design committee is, part of promoting our downtown, I go to other downtowns and I see in the summertime beautiful planters and so why can't we, even like sponsoring a planter contest between our businesses, kind of like we do the lighting contest at Christmas time. Just think how much, if business would participate, I mean, people always like contests, and so just that's another suggestion as far as for beautification of our downtown. Okay, let's see, activity number 5, marketing promotion calendar. Okay, so I was looking at that, which led me to the website, and again, I want to compliment because I saw the snow shoveling ordinance on there, and you know how, I am always pushing for our snow shoveling ordinance. But now, when I go to web pages, I always scroll down to the bottom to look at their copyright date, because that shows me how involved that business is with that web page and updating, and so keeping their web page update is always a good thing for any organization. And so I looked, and there are a lot of things on that web page that are really outdated that that need to be, such as testimonials from 2017. We provide the bid with money, with revenue, and I saw, our ice festival was not even updated on that page, and so that concerns me also. And so I think they need to get that web page updated. The Facebook page, on the other hand, the Facebook page, is people do, that keeps updated, but they need to update that web page. Let's see, what else did I have? Okay, as far as activities on this plan, there are a lot of I compared it to this operating plan from 2017, and there are a lot of things that have not been updated, even since 2017 in goals, and so I'm wondering, are they working on those goals? So one suggestion that I would make is, I belong to a lot of even nonprofit organizations that we keep an action register. And our action, when we set up goals, we make a list of those goals, and then who's in charge of those goals? Whether it's the committee, I know the bid has several committees. So what committee is in charge of these goals? Set up a timeline, and then, so that some of these goals get accomplished. So that, I think the bid could, I know a lot of it is volunteer. I belong to a lot of volunteer organizations that, we do a lot of work, and I think the bid could do a lot more work to help our businesses and to help our community as a whole. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, the Executive Director, Lindsay Jacobson, is on the call, so if there's no objection, I'm going to let her, I probably should have let her make an introduction to this plan first, so if there's no objection, I'm going to let her speak to this plan for about 2 to 3 minutes. Hearing none, Ms. Jacobson, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to the meeting, and I apologize that the operating plan has not been updated with you for quite some time. There was a question about previous operating plans, and You know, one of the things since I started that I realized this organization hasn't really changed terribly much since I started. We do cover 89 blocks. A lot of discussion is usually about downtown, but we really try to focus on all the different areas within the district and try to offer as many free promotions as possible. Right now, there's actually a St. Urho's St. Patty's Day promotion, and there were a few that signed up. We reached out to a lot of businesses to ask, and sometimes people just get so busy, they're not able to sign up for every promotion that we offer. And we don't ask for discounts. We want people to feature products, items, their business. We have a lot of new businesses in the district, and even just to let people know their hours, you know, we're happy to do that. To some of the comments and suggestions, I love them. I think it's very easy to focus on the living sort of Facebook page and worry about that and forget a little bit about the website. A lot of about us information on there. We've been around for quite a few years. I believe 1989 that the bid was established. It's grown significantly. I think we are still the largest geographic bid in Wisconsin, which I think is crazy. A lot of them focus on just a couple blocks at a time. So the fact that we're so big is pretty interesting when I've spoken to other bids within Wisconsin. The operating plan really is one part of what we focus on. Our bylaws and our budget is really what we focus on as well. I understand that we're bringing this to you for adoption or for approval, but I feel like it's kind of a living and breathing thing. So as the year goes on, potentially there's other projects we might take on, or with the ice festival, when that changed from the ice sculptures a couple of years ago, we didn't even have it in the operating plan and went for it. So I think that there's a lot of potential of growth, different things that our different committees are going to want to see. And as far as the comment about Belknap, that was supposed to be changed and didn't, and it should say, for example, Belknap and Tower Avenue. We always focus on helping businesses when there's any kind of road construction. With US 2, it's really important because that's a main thoroughfare. So with our operating, we're always trying to be the advocate, communicate as much as we possibly can, and market the district as best we can for as large as it is. Hopefully that answered. I don't know if there's any further questions.
I may direct more council questions to you, Ms. Jacobson, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Further discussion or questions? Councilor Sutherland.
Thanks. As a family business in the district, I've worked with Lindsay the last couple of years. Phenomenal. The whole board, Mr. Corhonen, been to a couple of the meetings. I understand. I do get emails from you asking about helping out and doing stuff, and I get overwhelmed with it too. It's kind of hard to jump on every. I'm sure Councilor Allen does over there on Discover PC too. Quick question, maybe Mayor Payne can answer this one. Does the city provide funding to that, or is it that tax collected within the district?
The funding for the district is primarily the assessment to the businesses.
So the taxpayers within that district fund that district, fund the bid?
Yes. Yes.
So it's not like the city has a general fund, money allocated for them, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Director
Yes.
Lutz?
Okay. May I answer that? Okay, so the majority of our budget is the assessment. Properties within the district are assessed $2 per $1,000 of assessed value. That does go into our budget. And then when the bid was established, they were going to match whatever the assessment was. But throughout the years, my predecessor, Kay Tenerelli, when the city was having to make cuts, said absolutely, cut from us and we'll keep moving forward. We're not a fundraising organization, so really those are the only two things that come in as any sort of revenue for us to put back out into the district. A majority of what we spend money on is outside maintenance. We do have money set aside for marketing. And also we are doing a stakeholder support grant, and that was in the budget. That was just a file and receipt for you guys. But we do receive some funds from the city, yes.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you. I realize we can't do anything about this, but I was looking at your financials, and if I looked at it correctly, and I couldn't find it here, so I'm going to have to do this from memory. Your 2021 budget is in a deficit of around $75,000. Is that an accurate statement?
I believe it should be about 58 that will be over. We do have a, we didn't spend as much in 2020 because of the pandemic. So we are hoping to put that back out into the district with some more stakeholder support grants. We've always had a sign grant program, and we used to receive CDBG funds. We are no longer receiving those funds, and so we're going to start using some of our own budget to help businesses that are looking to renovate, potentially, you know, a storefront or, you know, public spaces. Obviously, we're not going to redo somebody's office or, you know, redo their personal bathroom, but public spaces. So we're working on some of that stuff with our design committee to get that finalized. But we will not continue to have an overage. We will have a balanced budget in the future.
But your proposed budget for 21 is in deficit. Is that fair to say?
That's, yes, okay, correct.
So I thought around 70, but I don't have. And then you're going to work off your reserves, which is around 123 or something?
That should be out of the reserves, yes. And Ashley, I think, has access to all of those numbers as well. The city has all of our funding.
No, I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that it's accurate that you're going to operate in the deficit for at least you're proposed for 2021. You're going to take the excess, the losses out of your reserves.
Yes.
Which will about exhaust your reserves in.
I don't think those numbers are, it should be 58,000 if the budget is over. And our reserves, I think, were 120, so we will still have about $70,000 or $80,000 left. Our final numbers, I don't believe, are in quite yet.
Thank you.
Yes.
I want to clarify, Councilor Sweeney said we can't do anything about it. Your options, I just pulled up the statute. I still believe you cannot amend this. You can approve. Right. The statute says disapprove, which I just read to mean fail to approve. I think you could postpone as well, but it makes clear whether you disapprove of the plan or you postpone, I believe the bid board can make changes before your approval is obtained. Councilor Rowe.
Yeah, this is a question directed towards Lindsay. I mean, in discussions with other improvement districts, I mean, is it common for them to change year after year, or is it more common to stay as it is?
So a business improvement district is not a 501c3 nonprofit organization. There are our friends across the bridge, Christy Stokes, that has Greater Downtown Council. That is actually a fundraising organization where they can have members from anywhere join and use those funds for marketing. They have their large dinner event, but they actually started about 11, 12, 13 years ago, their Duluth Downtown Waterfront District. And that is specifically funds. I believe there's 1 or 2 employees, and all the money that they get in, which is, I think, over $300,000, they use for their clean and safe team, and they also use to hang the flower baskets all along. So that would be if all we did, they still have a larger budget because they have a bigger area. But they have a Duluth Downtown Waterfront District that does specifically just those 2 things. And then all of their marketing, promotions, events, everything else comes out of all the fundraising that they do and the membership that they get from a separate 501c3. So typically a bid just behaves as a bid year after year after year. So there's not an additional, unless we're lucky enough to have quite a few different buildings come in, renovate, reassess the property, or like when Quick Trips came in, we were able to bump up our budget a little bit more. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. Another question here is, are there any other items that are not listed on here that the bid does? And what are those?
Well, I think we often talk about with our logo, with our whole mission and vision is that we encourage, develop, and promote. I think one of the big things is that we work with, and it does state everything in our operating plan. We tend to try to pivot as much as we can when there's something new that comes up. But we do work a lot with all of our economic development partners. There are people that specialize in things that we just don't do. Andy Donahue with the Small Business Development Center at UWS. He's a really huge advocate and help to all of those that are interested in starting a small business. We try to get communication from different property owners that have available spaces. We definitely want to help them rent out their spaces as much as possible. The difficult thing is we are not allowed to tell them, you know, what they should be charging for rent. So sometimes that makes it kind of challenging. There are a few places that are very high end in rent and people have wanted to move into them, but just can't afford to do so. We work with the Development Association. We work very closely with Jason at the city in planning and development, and just try to help draw people to the district. But a lot of things that we do are different because there are a lot of stakeholders and businesses within the district that don't technically pay because their property owner pays the assessment and probably doesn't forward it on in their rent. So there's a lot of businesses that don't necessarily pay. It's not a membership fee per se, like our friends at the chamber, and they're able to take advantage of all these free promotions. So I don't believe there's a lot of additional items in our operating plan that we don't do unless it's something brand new that comes up.
Thanks for that.
Further questions or discussion?
Mayor Payne, I have a couple of questions.
Councilor Van Sickle.
Thank you. Welcome, Lindsay. Thanks
Hi,
for being here. Good to see you. I also work in the bid. So I'm happy that you're here. If the record here is correct, the last time you submitted an operating plan was 2016. And I think that's probably right around the time you took over. And if you've been on this call the whole time, you'll remember my saying that I believe this council's one of our primary charges is oversight. And I just want to be very clear that I'm not picking on you and I don't dislike you. But I think it's really important that we peel some of this back so that we can all get better together. And that's what you and I have been talking about for months. But Lindsay, when did you start? When did you take over your position?
August of 2015.
15, okay. And we do know the way Councillor Ludwig mentioned that the Belknap let me back up. Now, you assess $151,000 from local businesses, and your personnel is paid $141,000. So it's not free promotion, but you do provide that service. And then, you know, the city puts forward around $70,000. So it's not that you're completely funded with public dollars. You are in part, but the root of it is that the municipality creates the bid. Is that right?
I believe officially that there was a group that put together the business improvement district, and then the council then approved the formation.
Created.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. So, okay. So the ribbon was cut. The chamber cut the ribbon on Belknap in May of 2019. So 2 years ago. So without mentioning that project, what efforts, programs, and services are you most proud of and demonstrate the best use of the additional taxes being assessed to local businesses in the bid?
I believe the biggest service that we provide, a couple of years ago, there was an agreement, well, many years before me, there was an agreement that was made between my predecessor and the former Parks and Rec director. And there was actually additional funds that were put into our budget for us to basically handle a lot of the outside maintenance. It's gone back and forth because of Tower Avenue. There was a delay because there's a warranty period with all the plantings and the different shrubberies. So those, I think, were finally released to us in 2017 or 18 to be able to go through and trim and put down mulch or whatever is needed. But we also are no longer receiving that additional $10,000 or $12,000. So I'm proud that we are actually putting more of our money into the district to keep it looking good, to keep it clean and keep it safe. Also, when I started, there was about $30,000 worth of our budget that was set aside for 2 events during the year, one of which was a fall Halloween event, the Spooktacular, and the other was a Summerfest that had started because of the grand opening of Tower Avenue. When I started, businesses were willing to give me a lot of information and basically said, before you come back and ask me for more money, make sure that you give me an example or that you show me what the bid is doing for us before you start shutting down streets and making it difficult for people to get to my business. Brought that back to the board. We went through some strategic planning. And in 2017, those events have since disappeared, moved on, and other people have taken those on. So I feel like what we've done in the last couple of years is try to cut back on spending on frivolous fun events that the community really does enjoy as much as possible, and make sure that we're putting money back into the district. And a big chunk of what we do is the outside maintenance. We spend about $50,000. And when we did try to get a quote to see if we should be putting that out to somebody else, only one landscaping company would give my board any kind of a number, and they basically picked a number out of the hat and said it would be at least $200,000 to maintain 89 blocks for 365 days a year. So we work a lot with Parks and Rec. We do work a lot with Public Works, letting them know that this area really needs some concrete work, or Parks and Rec will say, hey, somebody called and said, you know, this planter's full of garbage. So we really focus on a lot of that. And we did have a business on our board that asked us about that and thought it was really expensive. But then we had our outside maintenance folks go around and do assessments. And there are a lot of businesses that don't actually pay attention to the front entrance of their building. They don't pay attention to the sidewalks. They're not cleaning around them. They basically focus on, you know, where it affects them the most. So by us doing that, it takes that off the business and property owners' hands to an extent. There are some things that we just can't do. If there's broken glass, it's beyond us. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Did that answer any of your questions? Sorry.
Yeah. And that's a tangible outcome. I think it's a great service. So the record shows here that the BID's board of directors went into default in 2020 by not holding meetings, even virtually, and failed to produce and submit an operating plan for approval to this council. So can you describe, though, what you did do to help businesses mitigate the negative effects of COVID as a full-time employee?
I have been, and it seems very little, but it's important for businesses when they take the time, they post on Facebook, and we use Facebook a lot. Instagram is a lot about pictures, so that's a little trickier for us. And Twitter is also a lot of verbiage. So we really want to take the time because people can shop through Facebook too. We've liked and shared a lot of businesses' posts. There are some businesses that haven't used it very much that are starting to use it a lot more. And I think it's really benefit a lot of businesses. That's really been important. And then our emails, we're trying not to inundate people because you know how it is. You go through your inbox, and if you don't like something on a regular basis, it can end up being junk. Maybe they didn't see it. They perused it. Councillor Van Sickle reads our emails when they do go out, and I appreciate that. Not a lot of people do. But it's really important to get that information out there. During COVID, there was a lot of opportunities, things coming from WEDC, things coming from the state, the city's different grant programs and things that they offered. We've been trying to put that information out as much as possible. The interesting thing that I've found is during all of this, the businesses that I have spoken to are actually doing really, really well. One business that is really having a hard time is a business that is not something that people use a lot anymore because they travel differently or they do different things in different ways. So maybe that business isn't necessarily still the same function as it was before, and they had to lay off all their employees and they're down to one employee. But the great news is I think there's a lot of businesses that are thriving, and we've had a lot of businesses that have come into the district and taken over. As soon as a space opens up, they're jumping in as fast as they can, and they're doing really well. So we've been very lucky, and hopefully moving forward, we can throw some more money back to businesses to be able to continue to improve.
That's great news. I won't keep you all night. I just have two more questions here.
Sure.
In the operating plan, it says that you attached is a list of your board members with their terms.
The city does have that on file. I believe Nick has a current one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll just ask
but we will have new appointed board members as of next month. So then that will get resubmitted and you'll have that on file.
Okay, that's helpful.
Counselor, I believe the statute also requires the city to set the terms. And so when I make the appointments to the bid in April, we'll just clarify the terms at that point as well.
Thank you. Lindsay, you mentioned promote, encourage, develop. So it's hard to sort of understand what the goals and objectives and the projects and the outcomes based on this format. But could you just share with us what you plan to accomplish in the next 12 months? And I'll yield back. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate these questions. And when I first started at the bid, I did a ton of research even before I applied for the job. A business improvement district is a very difficult thing to measure. It's not a fundraising organization, so I can't say my goal is next year to increase our assessment by $300,000. I would love to do that, but that's not how that works. We also don't have members or memberships that we can sell per se. So it kind of is strange because in our mind, you always want to see growth. It is what it is. I would love to say that I could have the bid be 100% occupied, but unfortunately we know that there are properties within the business improvement district who have property owners that aren't going to do anything and they're not going to fix it up and they don't care if they sell it and they write it off at the end of the year. There's also properties that are just not as desirable for some businesses or maybe don't work for the type of business that they have. So I think you asked that question, I've been thinking about that. It's really hard to have measurable goals. Now, when we send out opportunities for different promotions, a business can sign up for free. We don't charge them. And I would love to see even double the businesses actually participate in these promotions. I think one of the biggest promotions that happens throughout the year is trick-or-treating in the district. We have nothing to do with that. All it is businesses let us know if they want to be open to offer trick-or-treating for kids and families to come through. That is one of the most popular, and it has nothing to do with any sort of sales and any sort of promotion. Businesses just like that people are walking in the doors with their families. Now, hopefully they come back, but there's no way for us to track or market that. One of the other things that we are trying to do moving forward is putting out more bid bucks. I believe everybody's familiar, but if you're not, we have what are called bid bucks. They're in $25 increments. The city buys them for different health programs, and there are businesses that have said, yes, we will accept bid bucks. They take in the bid buck, and then we reimburse them and cut them a check after they submit it back to us, because we want to make sure that they actually have it filled out, that it's not fraudulent. But this year for Surprise Santa, we did it virtually and gave out more bid bucks, and people were ecstatic. They were so happy, and it's fun to see someone go to Super One or Keyport or Northwest Outlet or go down to anywhere in the Belknap area. Or Nick Kerhonen, one of our board president, actually said that someone came in and used it on their premium. And so people are using them for a lot of different things. I want to get people spending money in the district and get them moving around the district as much as we can.
Further discussion or questions? Hearing none, the motion is to approve. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion carries. If there is no business by councilors, we will have to reconvene in committee of the whole. So this meeting is adjourned. I'm going to recommend the president wait 5 minutes at least to call the meeting to order for a short break. And councilors, I hope to not keep you much more than a few minutes, but of course that'll be up to you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Lindsay.
The regular meeting is adjourned.
Think about it, because everyone's like overtime right now as it is. I don't know how much.
Their job description, they must attend in their own time, OT, their own
Yeah,
time.
right.
Hey, Jack?
Oh, I
My
don't know.
boss used to say, you can work on OT, your own time. You come on Saturday, get the Uber. Individual contractors.
Roll call. It's different if they're not in the room.
My head exploded.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to call the March 16th Committee of the Whole meeting to order. First order of business is roll call.
Councilor Ledeen.
Here.
Councilor Van Sickle.
Here?
Councilor Bender.
Here.
Councilor Sweeney.
Here.
Councilor Fennessy.
Here.
Councilor Elm.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Sutherland. Councilor Kern.
Here.
And Councilor Dahlbeck is excused this evening. The first item of business is an ordinance introduced by Mayor Payne, amending the City Code Chapter 2, Administration. Call to order.
All right, so do we have a motion and a second? Oh.
Motion. Motion to approve.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll just introduce this and
That's okay.
I'll present some options for how you want to approve it. The reason I called a committee of the whole to discuss this is several of us, including the council leadership, city clerk and city attorney, discussed our remote attendance ordinance, the one you see in front of you, which was a little bit outdated as we entered the pandemic in that it limited us to just calling in by phone, and obviously we've had quite a bit of success using other forms of technology. And so what we thought would be something of a routine update led to some pretty significant discussion, and what we landed on, I can't even say that I 100% agree with. I just think that this is the best of all the options. So I wanted to explain sort of the other side of this if you're inclined to disagree. The other element of it is when we were discussing this, the city attorney explained to me that he looked at this before, and many other cities don't allow remote attendance at all. In fact, require counselors, in order to participate, they must attend the meeting, as opposed to us, where we've always allowed a person to call in and still vote. And so that merited some discussion, and it really came down to I ended up taking that position for much of this discussion, that we shouldn't allow remote attendance at all. I've come to disagree with that position, but I wanted to explain it just so that everybody is on the same page and see if you develop some of the opinions I did along the way. But generally speaking, as we've watched the pandemic unfold, I think we've seen a meeting is different when you're not there. There is a lot of value to both the individual member, to the body, and I think to the public as a whole to have people actually physically attending the meeting. And some of the merits of that are, of course, you see and hear the meeting better. There is a certain amount lost by participating virtually, even on the phone. I think we've all done that at some point. We've all struggled to hear. There could be connection issues that could cut you out at a critical point of the meeting, which is bad for you and bad for the meeting. There are other forms of communication in a meeting, both in committee and in the council, than just verbal. There's a lot of nonverbal communication. There's a little out of order communication that actually kind of serves the meeting. In my notes, I wrote that as the what did he say comment. You miss something quickly, you can talk to somebody very quickly and quietly. There's a lot that gets communicated physically in the space. You can tell when people are upset. You can tell when they support something, when they oppose something. There's a lot to be read right in the meeting. This is one of my favorite points. Citizens exert more influence when they're in the room and when you're in the room. This is, I don't want to call it the intimidation factor, but a lot of the time when citizens come, it's because they disagree with something or because they passionately support something and they want to convince you, their representatives, to act in a certain way. To some extent, I think they expect to be able to look you in the eye and speak directly to you and let you know that they're a human being and they want to have a real conversation with you. That's harder to do through a screen or over the phone. Finally, it humanizes the meeting, and it makes general control of the meeting easier. It's much easier for a chair to conduct a meeting where the people are in person, where we can see and hear everybody that wants to engage in discussion, where you get a sense of who supports and opposes things so you can structure debate. You can tell when people are out of order. You can tell when there is no doubt that they are physically engaged in the meeting and capable of making the decision that they came there to make. But more than that, it's a little harder to get to leave good order, to treat other people as just allies or enemies. It builds relationships and builds the kind of decorum that an in-order meeting requires. So obviously I felt pretty passionate about that position, but there is another side of it that ultimately led, I believe I'm in agreement with the council leadership here, with the ordinance that we're proposing. The fact of the matter is people miss meetings, some for very valid reasons, especially in the last year. We've seen people have very real health concerns that keep them out of meetings. Some people travel, some frequently, some for work or other very valid reasons. And if a city councilor can't attend a meeting for at least that meeting, their entire district is disenfranchised. They don't get a voice in that meeting, and maybe it's routine business, but I'm of the belief that everything we do here is important, and your constituents deserve to be represented. And so if there's a way that we can accommodate that and allow you to still serve, because ultimately, while I believe that it is important and the best service to your constituents to actually attend the meeting and participate, it's really your choice, and it's your constituents' choice to elect you. They should understand the terms, but ultimately, I don't believe that we should be dictating the terms of representation to constituents. I think you have a right to participate in the meeting as fully as possible, even if you can't physically be here. So, finally, I know I've been a little bit long-winded here, but I'll just take you through what's proposed here, and then I'll encourage you, if you have questions, if you want to actually debate either side of this, you'll find, obviously, that I don't necessarily disagree with either side of this. Or if you're just tired tonight, it's been a long meeting, I'm going to recommend we actually refer this to the next council meeting. I would prefer this not be passed until we're close to the end of April when we leave the state of emergency, so that we're still under, I mean, the emergency will still allow us to participate virtually, but we've got a minute to pass this. So the changes are relatively simple, but I think meaningful. One, it adds video and digital attendance, so people would still be able to attend on the screen. We'd get a little bit higher and better participation. We'd be able to use subsequent technology. Permission is not required. I felt fairly strongly about this. The existing ordinance required, I've never seen this used, but in order to attend by phone, you needed the permission of the president of the council. I hope no council president would ever abuse that authority, but it was perfectly within his or her right to do so according to the existing ordinance. We're going to just take that away and convert it to 24 hours. You give the clerk 24 hours notice, we are going to accommodate you. If it's less than 24 hours, we're still going to try, but the ordinance does not require us to, and you may just be absent if we can't accommodate you with short notice. That's mostly if folks call 5 minutes before the meeting, we might not be able to get you in there. We're applying these rules to the committees. There was always a presumption that they did apply to the committees, that people could call in, but we're making that clear, and we're adding what I am affectionately calling the Jack Sweeney rule. I noticed at a finance committee meeting, one of the members was attending digitally, but the alternate member was physically in attendance. On the fly, Chairman Sweeney just stated that the alternate in-person member would be the voting member on the committee. I don't believe he had the authority to do that, but I think it was the correct decision and a wise one, and so we're going to enshrine it. I believe, anyways, we should enshrine that in ordinance. And finally, we are establishing that an in-person quorum is still required. That is an element of the existing ordinance, but we still need 7 people physically here. That, again, is why we want the 24-hour notice. So if 4 people call and say they don't intend to make it, I don't know exactly how we'll handle that. We'll probably call all 4 and try and get somebody to physically come in. But 4 people gone cancels the meeting. That's all I have. Can I answer questions?
So, Mayor, are you looking for a motion to table this till the next meeting?
No, I'm looking for a motion to refer to the council. I think the appropriate motion would actually be to recommend to the Common Council, and then we will fully consider it and pass it at the next council meeting.
Okay, I will so move.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Go ahead.
Turn your light on, please, Councilor Sutherland.
Just out of curiosity, why, like, what come up is that, why 7, not 6? I mean, for the majority, is there a reason? Is that just the way it's been?
That's state law, I think, right? 2/3.
Oh, super majority?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Are we going to open, not tonight,
So-
doesn't, I'm
No,
sorry.
Okay, I mean, there has been a motion and a second to refer to council, correct?
Yes, but we could still have discussion.
So,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Jack.
So are we going to entertain other options, or are we going to vote on this as it stands for the next meeting?
You can certainly entertain other options. You can amend this. That'll be in order at the council. If you're going to, obviously, it'd be nice to know those in advance. But this is what we're recommending as it's written here.
Okay. If you want my opinion, most people don't, but if
We
you
always want your.
if you give me a nonverbal communication, I will be happy to give it to you. Because I strongly believe what the mayor said also. Why does it have to be all or none? Everybody has an opportunity or something not to be able to attend a meeting, okay? But if you run for office with the idea that you're never going to come to a meeting, you're going to go virtual every time, or if your job takes you out of the city every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, whatever it is, then perhaps this isn't the time for you to run, okay? I think we should have something for when people can't make it. Everybody has times through the year, whatever the time, but to make it a carte blanche, every single meeting, you can go virtual. I think that defeats the purpose of what we were just talking about, what the mayor was just talking about. So,
Councilor Dean. I'm sorry, I don't know who.
Oh, Mayor, question, just one of the things I'd seen. You mentioned in here that there's in this ordinance that a member shall be entitled to vote to the fullest extent possible. However, there may be times that they need to physically be there in order to vote. What kind of examples does that entail to where someone could vote virtually, but they can't, or they cannot vote virtually, or they can vote virtually. What is?
I don't know. I'm gonna, did you write that?
Sometimes the council will sit as a quasi judiciary. You'll be the judge of something that is taken away or granted. We've had licensing issues that have come before the License and Fees Committee, but ultimately the appeal is to the council at large. So you'll have witnesses and exhibits before you, and part of your job in judging the veracity of those witnesses will be to appreciate their demeanor, how they respond, how they react to certain situations and certain questions. And I would submit that those are situations where you want to be live and in the room with the people who are the focus of that action. And I think I've read Attorney General opinions. I can't quote them right now that share a similar sentiment. Exhibit sharing and people studying gets tricky if you have a heavy virtual presence.
You know, I would just want to say, and as someone who has a very odd work schedule working in the correctional world, that the ability to call in, Jack, I wouldn't want to do it every single time. I wouldn't push to it. It wouldn't be my goal to be virtual, but things come up. Of course we do. Life is life. And the ability to still have some type of representation to my people, my district, my constituents when life happens and I can't get here on a Tuesday or someone else cannot get here on a Tuesday, I think is a big deal. I mean, I hope that I am here most Tuesdays. I want to be here most Tuesdays. I'd love to see your face on Tuesdays, Jack, instead of over a video. So, I mean, I thank you, and I understand the reasoning for doing this. I hope at the next council meeting we look at this, we pass this. I think this could, without a sense of abuse, could even open up people's thoughts of council, because I do believe some people may think, I don't know if how much I could be there on Tuesdays, or things come up. We work in fields that are switched by the wind, whether it is corrections, whether it is nursing, whether it is some type of essential workforce out there where we would like to serve our community in another way, like being on council, and we want to be here. We understand sometimes our job requires us to stay, and we can't. But I would like to say, as someone who works a very odd schedule at times, that I believe this is appreciative, and we can still serve our community and still serve on this council and work a job such as this. So I thank you for the time.
Councilor Fennessy.
Thanks. I think this is heading in the right direction for where we should be. I mean, it's 2021. We should be able to, use the technology that we have as far as virtual meetings, whether that's Google Meets, Zoom, whatever. Did you guys discuss at all, to your point, Mayor, that it's a different feel when you're in the same room, when you have to see the body language, all that. Did you guys discuss at all, like, the requirement for having video on if you are going to do a video, or?
My colleagues might remember it differently, but I don't think so. I don't recall that conversation.
Not everyone might not have that technology. If they're calling in from home, they might not have it.
All of us have iPads.
That's true.
However, in fact, when we get to council, we're going to recommend an amendment that reduces the requirement to just being able to be heard. I think you're making a valuable point, but there are some people that will still struggle with the technology and will prefer to call in by phone.
Okay, and yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on it one way or another. I was just wondering if that was part of the conversation at all. The question that I did have is, if we're going to be going in this direction where we're going to be allowing video conferencing, you know, whatever, are we going to be investing in the technology to have that? Because right now it's fairly smooth trying to do this at a council meeting. It's terrible trying to do it at a committee level meeting in a, you know, in a much smaller room, and there isn't like that one centralized place where like the camera is, and it's clunky. It's really clunky. Are we going to be investing in technology at all?
With the permission of the president, I think the question was directed towards me. Yes, I hope so. I would certainly support technology improvements in this building. I mean, a lot of us have to work here every day, and some of the technology can be challenging. But I'm certain Mr. Shea would agree as well that, in fact, you know, during the pandemic, we have been steadily updating a lot of the offices and meeting spaces here to become more efficient for digital meetings. I hope that will continue. This particular chamber is controlled by the county. They lead the charge on improvements. But I'm more than willing to be a partner there and co-invest with them. We use this just as much as they do. So to tell you the truth, Counselor, I don't think it's even that expensive to do it right.
Yeah, I don't think so. But if this is going to be a direction that we're going to be going, I think we need to put the technology in there to make it as smooth of a meeting as possible, whether it's here or in the committee meetings.
All right. Go ahead, Councilor Kern.
I want to say I commend that we're like looking at this. I do agree with a lot of your first statement, and I also agree with kind of what Jeff was saying, either all or in or out. It has been convenient over the years. I do a lot of traveling to at least be able to have the ability to call in, but up until basically this year, I've barely ever used it. I try to schedule everything around every meeting. Can you did I miss an email at some point? Are we being encouraged to now be in person? I was under the assumption that we're still kind of doing a virtual thing.
Go ahead, Mayor.
No, Counselor. I mentioned it a few meetings back that if people had needs to be here, but to tell you the truth, I'm looking forward to getting us back in person. There have been some struggles that have creeped into the meetings. The state of emergency officially ends at the end of April. That is 2 more meetings. But I will probably ask as many counselors as possible to attend for the reorganization meeting. We will have a new colleague at that point, and you know, we have the leadership elections, and that'll be our final meeting in the emergency, barring a major outbreak of COVID or some significant change in the direction of the pandemic. But I've appreciated that we're creeping towards it. No, there was no memo. But you're welcome back.
All right, you know, you kind of get into the routine with a lot of our committee meetings and everything being solely virtual that I guess I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I just kind of follow in the direction of what I thought we were still doing. Otherwise, I will be there next meeting, no problem.
Right. Thank you, Councilor Kern. Okay, Councilor Sweeney.
Just one more comment. I see this as a very slippery slope. Okay, it's much easier not to attend meetings. If this continues, I can see somebody just at random being gone for a couple months and going virtual, being in Florida for 2 months and attending the meetings. I just feel that type is not representing the district, your district, or the city. But I'm certainly willing to admit I'd be totally wrong, but I just see this being virtual, being easier and being a slippery slope if the objective is to have in-house meetings. Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Sweeney's point, he articulated it earlier as well, that should this be all or nothing, should we limit, I interpreted what you said to mean, should we limit the amount of times a person could call in or attend virtually? We discussed that at length, and I, for much of the discussion, really supported capping the amount of times you could attend or creating some other condition, an approval process, something for the reasons you've expressed, Counselor. The reason we abandoned that argument at least my impression of it, it was just too hard to quantify. What's a good reason? How many meetings should you be allowed to attend? It just got to, none of us wanted to be in a position to decide who should be allowed to attend, how many times they should be allowed to attend, or what's a good reason for missing it. I think your point, though, I don't think we have to get too far away from it, because that's a real situation. It happens. I don't know if it happened here. I'm not going to say it's happened at this council, but I guarantee it's happened at any body that allows virtual or call-in attendance. At some point, it's going to get abused for a person that just doesn't want to show up. And I think the council has other options at that point. Obviously, removal is an extreme option. I would never support that for that. But I have been a part of it. I've seen, excuse me, at the county board, I remember the chairman, when he was making his appointments for the year to committees, he took attendance into consideration. There was a committee member, it was very controversial at the time. He declined to appoint him to any committees because he missed 2 meetings. I'm exaggerating, I think, but he didn't miss very much, I think, by our standards. And the chairman declined to appoint him to committees. And it was a hot discussion at the county board because, of course, we confirmed those appointments. And ultimately, the board agreed by a large margin with the chair. So there are options where the council can take, I don't think it's disciplinary action, but the council can regulate itself to a certain extent if a member is abusing a privilege. I think there's a lot of steps in between that where mayor or council leadership can be having conversations with councilors about, hey, we'd really like you to attend. So I don't think we should ignore that concern. I think it's real. It just got hard to qualify an ordinance.
Councillor Ludwig, can I just make a point here?
Go ahead, Councillor Van Sickle.
Thanks. Thanks, Councillor Kern, for asking if we had missed a memo. But 2, I just want to appreciate what Councillor Sweeney said around attendance, and of course how important it is to, provide the representation that we all strive and promise to provide. I think we've all seen examples of committees or council meetings be treated as optional, and it can hold up the business of the body. But I also go back and forth because, when it's too structured, and I just want to make sure that we're being inclusive to folks that have been historically marginalized out of representation, certainly through issues with transportation, childcare. I just want to make sure that we build in that flexibility because I think, even if you have very young children or, infants, it's always, can be the right time to run for office if that's what you're being called towards. But yeah, I don't know. I've really gone back and forth on this, particularly in public works and the health concerns around COVID. If the voting member would be in person or on the phone, because as you guys know, we've had a member gone not in person for over a year. So I've been very grateful that that member has been able to participate and fully vote through this process. So I don't know, just wanted to add that it's, as Jack said, a slippery slope.
Thank you, Councilor Van Sickle. Any further discussion? All right, then there is a motion on the table. Terry, could you?
Yeah, the motion is to recommend referring this to the next meeting in April, which would be April 7th.
All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Then motion carries to refer to the next council meeting. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
Well, we're all done.